Hey everybody, I'm Dave Hecker, and today we're going to talk about an up-and-coming outsourcing destination, Vietnam. Okay, I love Vietnam. Vietnam is a growing and maturing offshore development destination. There are a lot of great developers there, but it's not perfect. There's lots of pros and lots of cons to working in Vietnam, so let's get into it. First, the pros. Here's the big pro. Vietnam is cheap. The currency exchange, especially between the dollar and the Vietnamese currency, is extremely favorable. We see Vietnamese developers at rock bottom rates. It's pretty impressive. Another pro is that it's pretty easy to get to Vietnam. There's lots and lots of flights. It's easy to get around, and it's generally a nice place to visit. Another great advantage of Vietnam is that the culture is very well aligned for software in some ways. And one of them is that people in Vietnam, they really work hard. This is not a place where you're going to find the prima donna developers or people that refuse to work overtime, things like that. My experience in Vietnam has been that every single developer I've worked with has really gone the extra mile. They're very dedicated, and they, when they meet an obstacle, they kind of pound through it. They're very sort of diligent in their work, and that can be very, very good for certain kinds of development. So that makes Vietnam a very good country to send your work to. Let's talk about some disadvantages. The big one being the language barrier. There are lots of people in Vietnam who speak English, but there are a lot more that don't. And when they do speak English, there's a lot of idiom and cultural elements to the language that make it even difficult if they're fairly fluent in English. It's a big language barrier. Culturally, the advantage being that they're very hard workers comes with a disadvantage that they fall into sort of a classic Asian hierarchical structure in which they are not so quick to raise issues or to contradict the leadership of a project. So, for example, if you're the project manager and you're working with a bunch of Vietnamese, they're going to work really hard for you. But if you make a decision that they don't necessarily agree with, and you're hoping to get some opinions and feedback on that, it might be hard to get from a team in Vietnam. Another disadvantage is that seasoned managers in Vietnam are not easy to find. It's a fairly young industry, so you'll find a lot of people that have been in the development world for maybe 5 years, maybe even 6 years, could even be 7. 10 years, you're not going to find that. And most of the developers are clustered in the 2 to 4 year experience range. So this means it's a very kind of young culture without a lot of really seasoned management. And without that seasoned management, they struggle to really get into the enterprise and the larger projects that are going to require some more sort of thoughtful strategic management. So watch out for that. Now it sounds like there were just a few advantages and a lot of disadvantages, but those were some great advantages. It's very, very cheap. They work really hard. It's a pretty nice place to go. So with that, you can balance that with the disadvantages by sending the right kind of work to Vietnam. If you're a startup and you want an aggressive, agile team that's going to really communicate, everybody's going to contribute, and it's going to be great, people are going to call each other out on the whiteboard, Vietnam may not be right for you. If you have a product that's already built and you're looking for people that are going to work really hard and maintain it, fixing bugs, taking care of it, not making mistakes, not letting you down, it's not the most challenging work as much as it needs to be done right and reliably. Vietnam can be a great destination for that. Vietnam is also great for things like QA or sometimes front-end work. It's still growing up, but wow, it's cheap and the food is great, and I actually really like Vietnam. It's a great place to send the work. Just make sure you send the right work there. Good luck on your next project, and give us a call if you need any help.